I speak to those who wish to rule, not be loved. I am Niccolò Machiavelli. I did not write for the weak. I did not write for the morally comfortable. I wrote for those who wish to survive reality, not escape it. If you have come here seeking comfort, leave now. If you seek praise, reassurance, or validation, close this page. But if you seek power without noise, authority without argument, and dominance without explanation, then remain. For today, I reveal a weapon more feared than armies, more effective than cruelty, and more precise than words: the power of ignoring. Most men lose power, not because they are weak, but because they react. Understand this first, and you will already stand above the crowd. Power does not leak through silence. It leaks through reaction. When a man reacts, he reveals where he is wounded, what he fears, what he values, where he can be controlled. Every insult answered is a confession. Every explanation offered is a surrender. Every emotional response is a rope handed to your enemy. In my time, princes lost kingdoms not because they were conquered, but because they spoke when silence would have ruled. Why ignoring is not passive, but violent in its effect. The ignorant believe ignoring is weakness. They confuse silence with fear. This is because most men ignore by accident, not by design. But when ignoring is intentional, it becomes a psychological assault. To ignore a man is to tell him, "You do not exist in my calculations. Your voice does not alter my direction. Your approval is irrelevant." This strikes deeper than any insult. Why? Because the human mind is addicted to recognition. Denied recognition, it panics. Attention is the currency of power. Let me speak plainly. Men do not crave truth. They crave attention. They will provoke you not to defeat you, but to be seen by you. Every critic, mocker, antagonist, and provocateur shares one secret desire: acknowledge me. When you react, you feed them. When you explain, you validate them. When you defend, you elevate them. But when you ignore, you starve them. And starvation makes men desperate. The silent man forces others to reveal themselves. Observe carefully. When you do not react, the calm man remains calm. The insecure man escalates. The manipulator exposes himself. The weak become loud. Silence functions as a mirror. Those with substance remain composed. Those without it unravel. This is why ignoring is not avoidance. It is interrogation without words. Never react. The first law of psychological dominance. Reaction places you beneath the other man. Why? Because the reactor follows the tempo of the aggressor. He who reacts is no longer leading. He is responding. In politics, war, love, and influence, whoever controls tempo controls outcome. When someone insults you publicly and you answer, you validate their importance. You confirm their relevance. You lower yourself to their frame. When you remain silent, you force them to shout. You make them repeat themselves. You turn their aggression into embarrassment. Silence creates unequal power. Dynamics. Silence unsettles because it breaks expectations. Men expect defense after accusation, emotion after insult, explanation after doubt. When none comes, confusion follows. Confusion weakens judgment, and a confused enemy makes mistakes. I did not win influence in Florence by arguing with fools. I won by letting them destroy themselves while I watched. Why explaining yourself is a strategic error. Let me carve this into stone. A man who explains himself places himself on trial. Explanation assumes guilt. The moment you explain, you accept their authority to judge you. You submit to their frame of reality. You lower your position. Powerful men declare, they do not justify. Kings do not explain edicts. Generals do not justify commands. Strategists do not debate peasants. The trap of clearing the air. Modern men are taught to clear misunderstandings. This advice is poison. Those who provoke you are not confused. They are testing. They want to see how fast you respond, how emotional you become, where your limits are. Every explanation gives them data, and data is power. Ignoring is a filter for worthy opposition. Not every battle deserves your presence. By ignoring, you filter serious threats from noisy ones. You conserve energy. You preserve mystique. A man who engages, everyone appears equal to everyone. A man who engages no one appears above judgment. Your first discipline: withhold the reflex. You must train yourself to pause. Between stimulus and response lies your sovereignty. The weak react immediately. The strong decide if reaction is even necessary. Often, it is not. If you wish to continue learning the rules that polite society will never teach you, if you want mastery over influence, power, and psychological dominance, subscribe now. What follows will not flatter you. It will sharpen you. Next, I will reveal why ignoring enrages manipulators, how silence dismantles social attackers, the precise moment ignoring becomes lethal to your enemy's strategy. Only the insecure demand response. I return to you not as a philosopher, but as a surgeon. We now move beyond the surface illusion of ignoring and enter its true function: control. Understand this without hesitation. Men who demand your reaction are men who lack inner authority. A secure man does not chase acknowledgement. An insecure man needs it. That need is his weakness. When a man provokes you, through insult, accusation, mockery, or moral outrage, he is not attacking your character. He's begging for validation. Your silence denies him oxygen. Why silence drives manipulators into error. Manipulators thrive on rhythm. They provoke, you respond. They escalate, you defend. They dominate the narrative. Silence destroys this sequence. When you refuse to react, they repeat themselves louder. They exaggerate accusations. They grow emotional. They reveal motive. At this stage, the manipulator is no longer controlling the interaction. You are. Silence forces. Emotional asymmetry. Power is asymmetry. The moment one man is emotional and the other is composed, the outcome is already decided. Silence creates this imbalance naturally. Your calm becomes a spotlight. Their agitation becomes a spectacle. Observers side with composure, not because they are moral, but because humans instinctively submit to stability. The crowd always follows the unmoved man. Never forget this law. People trust the man who appears least affected. In public confrontations, the loud man appears desperate. The silent man appears confident. Confidence attracts allegiance. Silence is not absence. It is presence without noise. This is why in courts, councils, and empires, those who speak least often decide most. Why arguing is a losing game. Arguments reward endurance, not truth. The man willing to shout longer often wins, not because he is right, but because he outlasts. By refusing to argue, you deny the contest. You exit their arena. You force them to fight themselves. A man shouting into silence eventually sounds mad, the psychological collapse of the unanswered man. Let me tell you what happens inside the mind of the ignored. First comes confusion, then irritation, then obsession, then humiliation. They begin to ask, why isn't he responding? Does he think he's above me? Am I insignificant? At this point, their focus shifts entirely to you. You now control their emotional bandwidth without lifting a finger. Ignoring as strategic selection. You must be selective. Ignoring everyone is not power. Ignoring precisely is. You ignore. those seeking attention, those beneath your strategic tier, those testing boundaries without leverage you respond only to, those with real influence, those who control resources you need, those whose silence would cost you more than speech. This selectivity builds hierarchy. Silence elevates your status. Without announcement, status is not claimed, it is inferred. When others notice, you do not defend yourself. You do not clarify rumors. You do not answer provocations. They assume you are protected, you are confident, you are untouchable. These assumptions work in your favor. For why explaining yourself destroys mystery. Mystery is power. A man fully understood is fully predictable. A predictable man is easy to manipulate. Every explanation reveals motive, emotion, intention. Silence preserves ambiguity. Ambiguity creates caution. Caution restrains enemies. If this truth unsettles you, it should. Now tell me, where in your life have you been over-explaining, overreacting, or defending yourself unnecessarily? Leave a comment, not from me, but to confront your own patterns. The silent man becomes the axis. Silence shifts the center of gravity. Others begin to adjust their behavior around you. Seek your approval. Moderate their tone. Without commanding anything, you become the reference point. This is leadership without decree. Next, and I will expose when silence becomes dangerous, when ignoring must be replaced with decisive action. The moment Machiavelli himself chose cruelty over quiet. Silence is a weapon, but no weapon is universal. I will begin with a confession many philosophers were too cowardly to write. Silence is not virtue. Silence is not morality. Silence is not restraint for its own sake. Silence is a tool, and every tool has a limit. The man who believes silence is always strength will one day be destroyed by a man who knows when silence must end. This distinction separates monks from rulers. Why most men misuse silence? There are two kinds of silence: strategic silence, chosen, deliberate, observed; fearful silence, accidental, passive, unnoticed. The world rewards the first and devours the second. Most men claim they are ignoring, when in truth they are paralyzed. They are not withholding action. They are avoiding responsibility. Power does not tolerate avoidance. The fatal error. Silence after the line is crossed. Silence works only while your authority remains intact. The moment another man publicly undermines you, challenges your legitimacy, recruits others against you, repeats disrespect without consequence, silence begins to decay. At this stage, ignoring no longer signals dominance, it signals permission, and permission invites invasion. The three phases of provocation. Understand this progression, for it is universal. Phase 1, testing. They probe you lightly. Jokes, sarcasm, side remarks. Silence here is devastating. Phase 2, escalation. They repeat, louder, publicly, with witnesses. Silence still works, but only temporarily. Phase 3, replacement attempt. They begin positioning themselves above you. Silence here is fatal. At Phase 3, you must act, not emotionally, not explosively, but decisively. Why authority must sometimes be visible. Invisible power is ideal, but only after visible dominance has been established. A king who is never seen punishing disobedience will soon be surrounded by rebels. Men must know you are capable of action, even if you rarely use it. Silence without reputation is weakness. Silence backed by consequence is terror. The moment Machiavelli chose action. I did not always remain silent. There were moments, political, personal, existential, where silence would have cost me everything. In those moments, I observed one law. Strike once. Strike cleanly. Strike in a way that ends the matter. Weak men threaten. Strong men warn repeatedly. Rulers act once. Why delayed action is worse than immediate cruelty. Men forgive cruelty more easily than uncertainty. This is a truth few accept, yet all experience. A single decisive punishment creates clarity. Prolonged ambiguity creates fear, gossip, and resistance. When action is required, do not argue, do not negotiate, do not explain. You move, and then you return to silence. Move from silent man to feared man. This is where power crystallizes. The silent man who never acts is ignored. The loud man who always reacts is mocked. But the man who observes silently, acts decisively, returns to silence becomes feared. Fear is not hatred. Fear is respect sharpened by consequence. Why mercy without authority is contemptible. Mercy is meaningful only when cruelty is possible. A man incapable of punishment who claims mercy is merely harmless. Silence functions the same way. If others do not believe you could destroy them, your silence will never unsettle them. This is why reputations matter. The illusion of moral high ground. Modern men cling to moral superiority. They believe being right protects them. Being calm absolves them. Being patient earns respect. History disagrees. Morality without power is decoration. Silence without leverage is decoration. The psychology of the challenger. A challenger is not brave. He's calculating. He asks, will this man respond? Will there be consequences? Can I gain status by attacking him? Silence answers the first question. Action answers the second. To you, once both answers are known, the third question dies. Why overreaction is worse than no reaction? When action is required, restraint remains essential. Overreaction reveals emotional instability, loss of control, weak inner discipline. Your response must feel inevitable, not emotional, cold, measured, final. Power is not loud, but it is never absent. The most dangerous man in the room is not the loudest. He is the one everyone keeps checking. Silence trains this behavior, if it is supported by occasional, undeniable force. The law of finality. If you choose to act, ensure the matter cannot resurface. Half measures invite revenge. Incomplete dominance invites future challenges. This does not mean cruelty. It means closure. A closed chapter cannot be weaponized against you. Silence after victory is non-negotiable. After action, or do not boast, do not justify, do not explain. Silence after victory magnifies its effect. Others will explain it for you, usually exaggerating your power. What weak men get wrong about Machiavelli, they think I advocated cruelty. I did not. I advocated clarity. Cruelty is only evil when it is. Repeated emotional indecisive. One decisive act that restores order is mercy in disguise. Why your calm must be feared, not mistaken. Calmness invites two interpretations. Confidence, weakness. Which one others choose depends on your history. Build a history that resolves doubt. The silent man's code. You are silent when noise benefits others. Emotion would expose you. Time is on your side. You act when authority is challenged. Order is threatened. Delay increases cost. This code must be internalized, not debated. We are approaching the final revelation I will give you. The complete architecture of psychological dominance. How to be unreachable without isolation. Why the ignored always return, begging. And the final rule that binds silence, fear, and loyalty together. This last part will not be gentle. Power is not won. It is maintained. Most men misunderstand power because they are obsessed with acquiring it. They chase attention. They chase dominance displays. They chase recognition. But power, once achieved, operates by a different logic. The loudest man is still climbing. The silent man has already arrived. Silence is not how power is gained. It is how power is kept. Why those who ignore you eventually return. Here is a truth few anticipate. When you ignore men long enough, they do not disappear. They return, but they return changed. At first they provoke, then they mock, then they attack, then they grow quiet, and eventually, if your silence is backed by authority, they return seeking alignment. Why? Because humans fear exclusion more than punishment. To be attacked is painful. To be ignored is existential. Ignoring reorders, social hierarchies. Social order is not maintained by rules. It is maintained by attention flow. Who is listened to? Who is deferred to? Who is waited on? When you withhold attention, conversations shift around you. Others moderate themselves. Your presence gains gravitational pull. This is not charisma. This is hierarchy. The silent man becomes the standard. At the highest level of influence, people do not ask, "Is he right?" They ask, "What does he think? Has he reacted yet? Where does he stand?" Your silence becomes a signal, and others begin interpreting it, analyzing it, projecting onto it. You no longer speak to influence, you exist to influence. Why explaining yourself keeps you small. Let me destroy one final illusion. Men believe explanations make them understood. In reality, explanations make them accessible. Accessibility lowers status. Those at the top are never fully accessible. Not emotionally, not cognitively, not psychologically. When you explain, you flatten the hierarchy. You invite debate. You concede equality. Silence preserves distance. Distance preserves power. The law of scarcity applied to speech. What is rare is valued. What is abundant is ignored. Men who speak constantly must compete for attention. Men who speak rarely command it. Silence turns your words into events. What one more prefers mystery over transparency. Transparency comforts the masses. Mystery controls them. A fully known man is predictable. A predictable man is manageable. Power requires unpredictability, not chaos, but controlled opacity. Let them never be certain. What angers you? What motivates you? What you tolerate? Uncertainty forces caution. Caution maintains order. The final evolution, from feared to respected, fear alone is unstable. Respect alone is insufficient. The highest form of dominance is when you are respected for restraint, feared for capability, admired for composure. Silence enables this balance. It signals confidence without begging for admiration. Why loyalty is born in silence. Loyalty is not inspired by speeches. It is inspired by consistency. When people see that, you do not overreact. You do not chase validation. You do not need approval. They trust your stability. Men follow stability instinctively. The difference between isolation and unreachability. Weak men isolate themselves and call it strength. Strong men remain connected, but unreachable. You are present, but not accessible. Visible, but not available. Engaged, but not reactive. This balance creates reverence. The throne is quiet. Look at history's true rulers, not its performers. The ones who endured were not those who spoke best, but those who spoke least and acted decisively. Noise attracts attention. Silence attracts obedience. Why the ignored always talk. More about you. When you ignore someone, they do not stop thinking about you. They think about you more. They talk about you, speculate about you, explain you to others. In doing so, they amplify your presence without your effort. Silence is psychological ownership. If someone is thinking about you while you are not thinking about them, the hierarchy is settled. Their mental real estate belongs to you. This is dominance without confrontation. The final rule of power, I leave you with the rule that binds everything you have learned. Speak only when silence no longer serves you. Act only when action ends the matter. Then return to silence. This cycle is the rhythm of rule. Why most will fail to apply this? Because silence is uncomfortable. It denies ego. It denies expression. It denies emotional relief. Most men would rather be loud and weak than silent and powerful. You must choose differently. The cost of mastery. You will be misunderstood. You will be labeled arrogant. And you will be accused of coldness. These are taxes paid by all who rise above reaction. Pay them gladly. If you are still here, you already know this is not entertainment. This is instruction. If you intend to master power, not imitate it, subscribe and like this video. Not as support for me, but as a signal to yourself that you are ready to think differently. My last word to you. The world is loud. Let others shout. You will rule quietly.